Nobody clicks on a video expecting to hear that the secret to building a $400,000 portfolio is being boring. No flashy trades, no once-in-a-lifetime crypto bets, no waking up at 4 a.m. to grind 16 hours a day. Just habits that, honestly, most people overlook because they're not exciting enough to talk about. But here's the truth. Boring works. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 9 boring habits that quietly built my $400,000 portfolio, step by step, decision by decision, year after year. Let's start with the first habit. I automated everything, and I mean everything. Investing wasn't something I left to motivation or willpower. Every month, money moved out of my account automatically into my investments before I even had the chance to spend it. This removed decision fatigue completely. I didn't have to ask myself, should I invest this month? It was already done. Most people think building wealth is about making smart decisions, but honestly, it's more about removing the need to decide at all. The second habit is painfully simple. I spent less than I earned. That sounds obvious, but the reality is, most people expand their lifestyle as their income grows. I did the opposite. When my income increased, I kept my lifestyle relatively stable and increased my savings rate instead. That gap between what I earned and what I spent became the engine of my portfolio. There was no magic investment that made the biggest difference. It was that consistent surplus. The third habit, I invested consistently, no matter what the market was doing. Bull market, bear market, recession headlines, it didn't matter. I kept investing. There were times when it felt uncomfortable, especially when markets were dropping and everything in the news screamed, "Wait." But those were often the most important times to stay consistent. Over time, this habit smoothed out the highs and lows and let compounding do its thing. Habit number 4 is one that most people find almost too boring to stick with. I focused on long-term investing. I wasn't trying to double my money in a year. I wasn't chasing trends or jumping between hot sectors. Instead, I chose investments I believed would grow steadily over many years, and then I waited. That's it. I let time do the heavy lifting. The longer I stayed invested, the more powerful compounding became, and the less important short-term fluctuations felt. The fifth habit is something that doesn't get talked about enough. I ignored noise. Financial news, social media opinions, market predictions, most of it is designed to grab attention, not to build wealth. Early on, I realized that reacting to every headline was a fast way to make bad decisions, so I stopped paying attention to daily market drama. I checked my portfolio less often and trusted my long-term plan more. That alone probably saved me from dozens of impulsive mistakes. Habit number 6. I kept my investment strategy simple. No complicated trading systems. No constantly changing asset allocations. I chose a straightforward approach and stuck with it. Simplicity made it easier to stay consistent, easier to understand, and harder to mess up. A lot of people think complexity equals sophistication, but in investing, complexity often just creates more opportunities to make mistakes. The 7th habit is one that requires patience. I reinvested everything. Dividends, interest, returns, it all went back into my portfolio. I didn't treat those earnings as extra spending money. I treated them as fuel for growth. This is where compounding really starts to accelerate. Money generates returns, and those returns generate more returns, and over time, that snowball becomes incredibly powerful. Habit number 8 might sound counterintuitive, but it made a huge difference. I avoided trying to time the market. I didn't wait for the perfect moment to invest, because the truth is, nobody consistently knows when that moment is. Every time I tried to predict short-term movements, I was more likely to miss opportunities than to benefit from them. So instead, I focused on time in the market, not timing the market. It's not exciting, but it works. And finally, habit number 9, I stayed patient. This might be the most important one of all. Building a $400,000 portfolio didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen in a year. There were long stretches where progress felt slow, almost invisible. But I trusted the process. I understood that wealth building is more like watching paint dry than watching fireworks. It's gradual, quiet, and easy to underestimate, until one day you look back and realize how far you've come. Now, here's the part most people don't want to hear. None of these habits are difficult to understand. There's nothing complicated here. But they are difficult to stick with, because they're repetitive, because they're slow, because they don't give you that instant gratification that comes from making a big, risky bet. That's why so many people abandon them. But that's also why they work. While others are chasing quick wins, these habits quietly compound in the background. While others are jumping in and out of investments, these habits stay steady. And over time, that consistency creates results that look anything but boring. If you take anything from this, let it be this. Building wealth doesn't require brilliance. It requires discipline. It requires consistency. And it requires the willingness to embrace habits that feel almost too simple to matter. Because those are the habits that actually do. And if you stick with them long enough, one day you might look at your portfolio and realize that all those boring decisions added up to something pretty extraordinary.